For this video, I'm going to be sharing with you the most recent version of the fearsome list that I've been running. This is the one that I think I've had the most success with in recent days as far as climbing on the ladder. Getting really close to finally cracking diamond. I know that I'd put off climbing for a while, but we're making the push now. We're trying to catch up with the rest of the pack. Goal is to hit diamond this week and then maybe masters the following week. My schedule permitting. Work is kind of still crushing me, but I wanted to share the list that's been working. You've probably ran into this if you're anywhere on the ladder, or at least a version of this, because the near mono Shadow Isles kind of fearsome based lists have been very, very popular. And as such, if not tomorrow, within the next couple of days, I'm going to share a variant of this list that I've also been playing when I run into the mirror a lot, because I think it's teched really well for the mirror. But this is going to be the version that is just kind of generally successful. So first up, we got Mark of the Isles. This is just an amazing pump spell. If you're coming from Magic the Gathering, it might not seem very impressive because it looks like a bad wild growth. However, in this game, because it's burst speed and because there are not many things that give you a 1 mana to 3 damage kind of value or expected value from a spell standpoint, this card is fantastic. It's huge. This allows you to trade up. In the mirror, it allows you to block with things that might not be able to block fearsome units, etc., etc. It's just very good. Like, it does not look like it on paper, but it is outstanding in practice. Next up, we have Arachnid Horror. This is pretty straightforward. It has fearsome. You're going to see a theme kind of throughout this list, and the theme is basically the same as when you play elusives. You're trying to play threats that are going to be hard for your opponent to block, but instead of going the elusive route, you're just going the fearsome route, and as a result, you kind of get better statted creatures. So for the same kind of value, for example, you're going to get that 2-1 duo that has elusive. Now, granted, it can ramp up if you're playing a bunch of bodies before you attack and swing for more than 3, but for the most part, you're losing 2 stat points, 1 in the attack and 1 in the health, where compared to the Arachnid Horror here, you're a 3-2 that's mostly unblockable in the early game, and it's a spider, so it's going to count towards your release. So great card in the list. Again, fearsome. Black Spear, I'm currently only running 2. I've seen some lists that still run 3. It's a phenomenal removal option. It's 2 mana for 3 damage. Yeah, it's got a conditional trigger, but it's still fantastic. One of the best ways to deal with early Elise. And speaking of Elise, we run her as well because fearsome. Also the spider synergy with the Arachnid Horror that we mentioned earlier, and things like Skitterer coming later. Glimpse, still one of the best draw tools in the game. Mistwraith. So this is why Shadow Isles has been very popular on the ladder lately, and it's because people have kind of realized that if you go heavy Shadow Isles, and we're 37-3, you can run Mistwraith along with Wraithcaller that has a sweet allegiance trigger, and you can get a lot of value, a lot of stats, and specifically with Wraithcaller, it's stats across 2 fearsome bodies. So you run Mistwraith because it feeds into itself. Now, I do want to point out that this does say allied Mistwraiths, so when you're in the mirror, it's not like theirs pump yours and yours pump theirs, so you don't have to worry about weird exponential scaling or anything. Vile Feast, still very multi-purpose. Sometimes it's removal, sometimes the drain matters. It makes a spiderling, which helps trigger your release. It's just kind of a staple in Shadow Isles at this point. Deny. So this is my version lately, and I'm just running the 3 Deny, and I basically just run it for the non-Shadow Isle matchups. So I don't go mono Shadow Isles. I know that some people have actually made that leap, but right now, I like running the 3 Deny simply because Judgment is gaining popularity, and I know that that is a card that if you've watched my other videos, you've heard me mention before, because I'm a big fan of Judgment. I'm glad people are catching on to the fact that that card is busted good. So that's been gaining in popularity, and as a result, I need a way to stop it, right? And Deny is the most consistent way to, at a minimum, slow them down, and so that's why we run 3. Frenzied Skitterer. This card is growing on me for a lot of reasons. Not only is it a fearsome body and a spider that feeds your release, but the summon effect where it gives enemies -1/-0 this round is kind of hilariously phenomenal in a list like this, because when you're attacking on the evens and you're playing this on an odd turn, you can slow down your opponent. You can make it so that they're doing less damage to you. Even in the elusives matchup, just making them, you know, if they've got 2 or 3 bodies, attack for 3 damage less. That's a pretty big deal. It's like blocking one of their elusive units. But also the fact that it can sometimes buff your spiders and on attack rounds. So if you're attacking on the odds and you're playing this like on curve on a 3 or a 5 or something, on a 5 you might be pairing it with Mistwraith. The fact that it gives enemies -1, -0 means that you're going to take a lot of things that have 3 attack power and suddenly make them have 2 attack power, and then they can't block your fearsome units. So in many ways, just playing a single skitterer sometimes makes your entire board become unblockable, and I'm a big fan. Wraithcaller, like this is kind of the reason you run heavy Shadow Isles. This is a 4/3 fearsome for 4, which is already pretty solid stats by itself. But then if you get the allegiance trigger, which is basically anything not deny, you will summon another Mistwraith. So by itself, if it gets the trigger, you're getting a 6/5 in stats, both bodies fearsome for 4. And that's assuming you've played no other Mistwraiths. If you've played multiples throughout the game, it starts scaling up. All right, so this is where my list kind of deviates a bit. I'm still running 2 Withering Wail because I think I'm just a little bit behind the pack, right? I know that a lot of Masters players have cut Withering Wail, and I fully agree with that sentiment. They're running Rekindler instead because they're just running into kind of like a different set of lists. However, I'm still running the Withering Wails because where I'm at on the ladder, I'm still running into spider decks that are not this Mistwraith version from time to time. I'm still running into the Noxus lists or even just Dawn Spiders lists. And Withering Wail is great in those matchups. So the minute that the frequency starts dropping in those instances, this will get cut. This is also one of the cards that I do cut. As I said, I've got a variant of this list that I run when I'm running into the mirror often, and I will do a separate video on that. But this is one of the cards that I cut from that as well, because it's just not as good in the mirror, but it's really good against go wide aggro lists. So I'm still currently running 2. 3 Hecarim. I was running 1 Callista for a bit, but I'm all in on the 3 Hecarim now. Hecarim, in my opinion, is just the best thing that you can do on turn 6 when you're attacking. It represents 10 attack power. His main body has 6 health, which is incredibly resilient. He has Overwhelm himself. He just is kind of absurd by himself, not even building around Hecarim. Just Hecarim by himself. You pretend that you're never leveling him up. He's still probably the best 6-drop in the game. Hecarim is bonkers. Rasa, this is your kind of finisher, cleaner up card. Vengeance, right now I'm running 2, and they're mostly for when you do run into the mirrors. It's your best way to deal with Hecarim. As I said, that 6 health is incredibly resilient, so a well-timed Vengeance. If you save some spell mana, they play it on 6, getting ready to swing into you, then you can obviously hit that before they get the chance to attack. And then Ledros is your top end. It just gives you a sense of inevitability against non-purified decks. So this is the list. And as always, after I've shown you the list, we're going to go play a game on the ladder so that you can see the list in action and get a feel for how the deck is supposed to function, perform, etc. So let's do that now. All right, so jumping into a match here, and just based on the champions, we are probably going to be up against some sort of aggressive list. Potentially Ephemeral. Ephemeral's a popular way to level up Lucian, for example. Zed's another way to get those ephemeral bodies up and running. We're attacking on the evens, which is traditionally where you want to be with this list, just because we have no 1-drops, and 2, 4, and 6 are kind of your power plays. 2, it's usually some sort of fearsome unit, whether it is Mistwraith, whether it's Elise, etc., etc. On 4, it's Wraithcaller. On 6, it's Hecarim.
This is mercy.
We could attempt to take this out, but a combat trick in response, something like a riposte would be a bit of a bummer. So I think we're going to skip this block. I think we're going to skip this block, develop a Mistwraith, again knowing that we're going to slap down Wraithcaller on the following turn and try to bring the heat.
Silent as death.
And while we do have the Vile Feast here, no real reason to use it right now, so we'll bank the spell mana. Banking the spell mana pays off because this Black Spear could be a pretty good pickup for us. You can kind of see where the Mistwraiths can snowball, and this is why this list has become very popular. So they're just going to pass knowing that I'm about to attack. So kind of telegraphing potential combat tricks here. By himself, Lucian's the only one that can block. This does not have the 3 attack power, but they could play something with burst and then assign it as a blocker. So they could have like back-to-back. Riposte.
Don't duck on my account.
And so this is, again, a great reason for us having saved the Vile Feast, because this will still result in us losing our Wraithcaller, but they lose Lucian, and we push 12 damage and generate a spider, so pretty solid tempo play. Mentor coming down could be signaling another elusive unit getting a buff. Could be a Zed. And we top decked Hecarim, so we're going to get the full gamut of the power plays. Like I said, something with Fearsome on 2, Wraithcaller on 4, Hecarim on 6. That's kind of where you want to be. And it also works out really nicely because your defensive plays, if that makes sense, even though this is like a proactive deck, your defensive plays come down on your odd turns. Frenzied Skitterer tends to slow things down. Rasa is an odd duck as well. Now we could play this, but we're going to pass because I expect them to at least attack with this, but we're going to pass because we do have the potential of blocking with this here and then using Black Spear. So we're going to pass, and then if they do not attack with the Mentor, and I don't expect them to, but sometimes people do weird things, right? If they don't attack with the Mentor, post-attack we can consider playing the Wraithcaller here anyway. So we have to make the decision now of, do we want to play the Wraithcaller, or do we want to bank spell mana and play the Hecarim? And as weird as it sounds, I actually think Wraithcaller is better, because the fact that the units coming from Wraithcaller have Fearsome, I think puts it ahead of the Hecarim in terms of value. So it's a lot of additional damage that we can put on the board here. Now they're at an effective health of 12. Go ahead and do this. No, we'll leave the... You know what? Put the spider out there as well. It's probably just going to trade with that or get 1 damage there. Either way, it's beneficial. But it is another body they might leave unblocked. And with double Mark of the Isles in hand,
Eyes open.
we might be in an okay position. So again, by itself, this is the only thing that can block, and they take the surrender. So with double Mark of the Isle, we were probably just going to win that anyway. But there you have it. You got to see the power plays as they line up. Now, we ended up going to the Wraithcaller instead of Hecarim because of the board state, but Hecarim on 6 is incredibly powerful as well. So anyway, thanks for watching. If you made it this far, I appreciate you dealing with my rambling as of late. I'm just mentally fried between work and everything that's going on, but if you stick with me, I promise it gets better, and hopefully I'll catch you watching future videos.